I can't believe it's over 40 years since I was last here. After the war, my parents brought me down to Torquay every summer for nearly 10 years. I loved those holidays. And being an only child, I was always particularly close to my mother and father, and I was very lucky that they were not only my parents, but my friends. Now I've been given the chance to revisit some of the places where we spent those happy times together.
It's almost exactly as I remember it. The harbour, the boats, the seagulls. First time I heard a seagull was down here, I think. Exotic sound, extraordinary sound. Still the same size that I remember, still tourist orientated. Although I don't think we called ourselves tourists, I think we called ourselves holiday makers.
Nació de Dios para los dos, nació del alma.
After all the restrictions of wartime, many people were able to go on holiday for the first time in years. And despite rationing, they were determined to make the very most of it. Torquay, the English Riviera. It marketed itself heavily as Britain's own place in the sun. And to us, it really did seem fabulously exotic. This was the heyday for the resort, the only time in its history when holidaymakers crowded its beaches like sardines.
So that's why we escaped the madding crowd to come here to Barbican. Gentler, quieter, more picturesque. Since 1900, Barbican has been officially a suburb of Torquay. But you try telling the locals that.
They still call it the village of Barbican and St Mary Church, and it really does have a rather villagey feel to it. Even the Victorians would take little half-day trips here from Torquay to bathe and take tea. It was just down the road, of course, but you could feel like you were in the middle of nowhere. Queen Victoria herself, or rather her royal yacht, anchored in Barbican Bay, so that Her Majesty could row in close to the shore and sketch these spectacular cliffs.
Well, you can see how steep they are. So in the 1920s, the local council built a funicular railway to carry the sun worshippers from the beach up to the village.
Mrs. Foote was a little girl at the railway's opening ceremony in 1926, and she's been using it to travel up and down the cliff for over 70 years.
Now, you lived here when this was...
It was built.
built?
Yes. Yes.
God.
Yes. I've got a picture at home of me. I must have been 9.
Well, the beach is fuller now than they used to be. I mean, more people come down. I remember being packed.
Yeah, it used to be
Absolutely
always,
packed.
the whole summer this place used to be packed.
Absolutely.
Not now, only certain.
We used to have to come down very early to get our
that's
place
right,
on the
yeah.
beach, to get our deck chair.
But of all the places I've been, not a lot of places, but nothing to beat down here, really.
I don't think so. There's an exotic feel down here.
There's something quiet.
Yeah.
It's not hustle bustle.
No,
You know,
no.
not like some places. I think it takes some beating on the whole.
Yes.
It really does.
Yes.
Because we got everything. I mean, in St Mary Church in Barbican, you've got everything. You don't need to go anywhere.
Really
See you again
lovely to...
sometime.
Oh, I hope
I'll
so.
go home and tell my children and they'll have a fit.
Oh, lovely. Take care.
Bye-bye,
Take
everybody.
Care. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Now, this is something you'll see everywhere here. The Torquay palm. This is definitely something that made it all seem so exotic in the 50s. But these are not what they seem. They are not real palms. These plants came from New Zealand around 1820. And they're known to New Zealanders by the distinctly unexotic name of cabbage trees.
It was probably the Georgians who nicknamed this area the English Riviera. When the Napoleonic Wars severed access to the sun-drenched playgrounds of the Mediterranean, the well-to-do picked this little bit of English coast as the closest equivalent. They built Italianate villas to remind them of the Bay of Naples. And you can still see some of their Belvedere towers and sprawling terraces dotted about the hillsides of Torquay. Now, this is the little B&B where the three of us stayed several summers in a row. It was all kept shipshape by Mrs. Dingle, who, as landladies go, was best described as firm but fair.
Hello, Derek. I'm Marilyn, Mrs. Dingle's daughter.
Oh!
Do you remember me? Oh, you married?
I do. Heavens, how lovely to see you. Good heavens.
I was a bit smaller.
Yes, you certainly were.
Come in.
Please, thank you. Oh.
I can remember of an evening when you'd been to places like the concert hall.
Oh, yes, yes.
And you'd come back and Mum would have coffee and things for you before you went to bed.
That's right.
And, you know, you do your sort of like an Elvis Presley.
I subjected you all to that, did I? Oh, dear. Obviously, the seed was sown then, you know.
Yes,
and
it
sort
was.
of, the wind changed and I stayed
Yeah.
like it. I wanted to be Hamlet and Macbeth and all those people.
Well, you did all of that.
Well, eventually, yes, yes. But I was dreaming of it here. I really was. And they were great times.
One of the great delights of this area was the number of interesting places close enough to visit within a single afternoon. My favourite trip was in a horse-drawn carriage to the ancient village of Cockington. This is the oldest part of the village, a little huddle of thatched cottages, which has been made famous by countless biscuit tins and ornamental plates. But many of these carefully preserved houses were here at least as early as the 17th century.
Well, I suppose all good things must come to an end. But at least I know the English Riviera will always be here for me. Whenever I have another yearning for palm trees and cream teas.
Well, I think in a way my childhood holiday experience was of its own time. And it's lovely to come back and revisit those places and re-feel some of those emotions. But that was then. It's wonderful to see it all again, but not to come back and dwell on it too much. It's really a reassurance that it all actually happened.